Papa Francisco, esta es Greta, la chica famosa. Vino especialmente para conocerte y hablar en el
Thank you for standing up for climate, speaking the truth, and really, it means a lot.
God bless you. Continue to walk, eh? Continue, eh? Go ahead.
Y Francisco, acá estamos hablando a nivel mundial.
Están sacando la foto.
¿Te parece que podrán posar juntos?
Están sacando la foto.
Dale.
De esta manera natural, queda mejor.
Dale. ¿Quieres tenerlo tú? Así que esa es la foto.
Que Dios te bendiga. God bless you. Pray for me.
I want you to act as if the house was on fire. I have said those words before, and a lot of people has explained why that is a bad idea. A great number of politicians have told me that panic never leads to anything good. And I agree. To panic unless you have to is a terrible idea. But when your house is on fire and you want to keep your house from burning to the ground, then that does require some level of panic. We are in the midst of the 6th mass extinction, and the extinction rate is up to 10,000 times faster than what is considered normal, with up to 200 species becoming extinct every single day. Erosion of fertile topsoil, deforestation of our great forests, toxic air pollution, loss of insects and wildlife, the acidification of our oceans. These are all disastrous trends being accelerated by a way of life that we, here in our financially fortunate part of the world, see as our right to simply carry on. Our house is falling apart, and our leaders need to start acting accordingly, because at the moment they are not. If our house was falling apart, our leaders wouldn't go on like you do today. You would change almost every part of your behavior, as you do in an emergency. If our house was falling apart, you wouldn't hold 3 emergency Brexit summits and no emergency summit regarding the breakdown of the climate and environment. The EU elections are coming up soon, and many of us who will be affected the most by this crisis, people like me, are not allowed to vote. Nor are we in a position to shape the decisions of business, politics, engineering, media, education, or science. Because the time it takes for us to educate ourselves to do that simply does no longer exist. And that is why millions of children are taking it to the streets, school striking for the climate, to create attention for the climate crisis. You need to listen to us, we who cannot vote. You need to vote for us, for your children and grandchildren. What we are doing now can soon no longer be undone. In this election, you vote for the future living conditions for humankind. And though the politics needed do not exist today, some alternatives are certainly less worse than others. And I have read that some parties do not even want me standing here today because they so desperately do not want to talk about climate breakdown. To do your best is no longer good enough. We must all do the seemingly possible. And it's okay if you refuse to listen to me. I am, after all, just a 16-year-old schoolgirl from Sweden. But you cannot ignore the scientists or the science or the millions of school striking children who are school striking for the right to a future. I beg you, please do not fail on this.
Greta Thunberg defines herself as a climate activist with Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism affecting social relationships. Those living with this syndrome don't face intellectual difficulties and especially thrive when their energy is focused on one theme. For Greta, it's climate change.
Sweden is often referred to as a role model, but if we include all of our emissions, we actually have among the top 10 highest ecological footprints per capita.
She's encouraged students around the world to protest against the destruction of the environment. Her drive has led her to speaking before the European Parliament, and now in Rome.
Il Santo Padre ha ringraziato.
The Holy Father has thanked and encouraged Greta Thunberg for her work in defending the environment. Greta traveled to Rome to meet Pope Francis, speak before the Senate, and encourage Italian students to work against climate change.
Papa Francisco, esta es Greta, la chica famosa, vino especialmente para conocerte y hablar en el Senado italiano, que como sabrás es una estrella mundial, millones y millones de seguidores, invitando y movilizando contra el cambio climático. Sí, felicito. And would you like to say anything to Pope Francis?
Thank you for standing up for climate. It means a lot.
But you continue to walk, eh? Continue, eh?
The Pope also met Greta's dad. The teenager and the Holy Father both share the same mission of fighting against climate change. Pope Francis has an encyclical Laudato Si on the topic, and an upcoming October Synod on the Amazon, and new paths for church and integral ecology.
you.